Tonight is Yom HaShoah V'Hagvura, the day of remembrance of the Holocaust and of heroism. It is marked in the Hebrew calendar by the 27th month of Nisan, a week after the end of Passover and a week before Israel's Memorial Day. It also marks, by proximity, the timing of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in 1943. It was enacted as a commemorative day by the Knesset on August 19, 1953. Tonight I was supposed to have been in Poland with many others, with a group of almost 40 and with probably 12 to 15,000 other people who had gone on the March of the Living. This was to be my 20th March of the Living. Tomorrow we were scheduled to march 1.5 miles from Auschwitz to the death camp of Birkenau to commemorate the 2 million, not only the 2 million people who were slaughtered there, but also the 6 million Jews, among them 1.5 million children, as well as 500,000 Roma or Gypsy. I just want to mention that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, there'll be an international ceremony for the March of the Living. It will be, you can access it by going to www.motl.org. Today is a Yom Kaddish Klali. In Jewish tradition, you're supposed to say the memorial prayer for a father, mother, sister, brother, husband or wife or son or a daughter. But today, because so many people did not survive and no one in their family survived, the chief rabbinate in Israel has declared that this is a Yom Kaddish Klali, a day in which we will all say Kaddish for those, especially for those who did not have any family surviving who could say Kaddish for them. Tonight I would like to speak very briefly on the topic of Holocaust denial. Now, classically, the rationale for Holocaust denial seems to be really unbelievable. For example, one of the arguments of the Holocaust deniers is that Jewish bodies outside of Europe, such as the Joint Distribution Committee and the Jewish Agency, World Jewish Congress, and others did not act as though they believed their own claims of extermination. And that's probably true, but that doesn't mean that it's a non sequitur, that would mean that the Holocaust never occurred. Another one is that Allied governments and their officials did not act as though they believed the extermination claims, and their intelligence services never produced any information corroborative of the claims. The latter part of that is not true, because the United States knew by August of 1942 what was going on there with affidavits and all sorts of other things, and mass shootings. However, it is true that the Allied governments didn't do everything that they could do. Another one, the Vatican did not believe the extermination claims. At least they could have made a declaration. True. The actions of the International Cross showed that they didn't believe it either. True, but who knows whether they believed it or not. And the German documents never speak of extermination, but they use words like Endlösung, final solution, and they speak of expulsion and resettlement to the east. There is nothing about gas chambers in the concentration camp or other German records. By the way, I've walked in those gas chambers. And while it is true that there is no record of that in the German records, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And then finally, and most devastating, is both the wartime records and behavior of Jews in occupied Europe showed that they had no information of an extermination program. That's not true, but on the other hand, we in the Jewish community need to ask, could we have done more? Now, why is all of this, why classically has Holocaust denial been an issue? The real bottom line for most Holocaust denial is to say that Israel in some way or another guilt-tripped the rest of the world into having a Jewish state, which therefore has no reason to be, and the rest of the world should not have followed or fell prey to this guilt trip. But tonight, I think there's something else that's very disturbing to me, and that is what I call the trivialization of memory. And in some respects, I'm asking myself, is this a new form of Holocaust denial? There have been many articles and tweets and everything saying that what is happening to us now with the COVID-19 virus is in some way or another similar to what happened to Anne Frank. That is garbage. That is absolute garbage. Yesterday, I heard again the incredible story of our Holocaust survivor, Shelley Weiner, her story of hiding out in a barn and then living for 8 months in a hole in the ground that a righteous Gentile, a righteous person had dug for her and her family. This is ridiculous. Anne Frank's Shelley was in that hole for 8 months. Anne Frank's was in hiding for 25 months before they were discovered because of the Gestapo discovering them. Even Anne in her diary says that they're in relatively luxurious quarters, but that's nothing compared to us. We can still go grocery shopping. We can walk around. We don't have to worry about someone arresting us and taking us away. We have social media, FaceTime, and Zoom calls to help ease the physical distancing. Meanwhile, families like Anne Frank's were forced to practically disappear from the world to avoid being caught and taken to a concentration camp. I would like to say that most of the people that do this out of ignorance, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there's not a twinge of anti-Semitism there. The second answer is even more critical, and that is that people have been calling out governors, most recently 3 days ago, for their quarantine orders by using such words as Gestapo or Nazi-like. 3 days ago, this happened to the governor of Colorado, who actually lost a family of his in the Holocaust, okay? And it was a very emotional confrontation, but again, this is absolute garbage to say that any governor who's trying to save life is in some way or another has anything in of a similarity to what occurred to our people during the Holocaust. And to this I say, shame on you, such people that say certain things like this, and shame on you to any of these people who say this, and they should know better. So I would suggest tonight that there are certain things that we can take from the Shoah, and one of them is to be found from the Warsaw Ghetto. In the Warsaw Ghetto, there was a wonderful Rabbi Isaac Nissenbaum who said that what we need to do now in this difficult situation, granted ours is not anywhere near as difficult as theirs, but his usage of the term was very telling to me. He says, we should not be thinking of Kiddush Hashem, because in that instance they were, of martyrdom. Rather, he said the imperative of this hour was to spiritually resist the Nazis in their intention of annihilating the Jewish people. He says, in the past, quote, in the past our enemies delighted our soul, and the Jew sacrificed his body in sanctifying God's name. Now the enemy demands the body of the Jew, and this makes it imperative for the Jew to protect and defend it. So what I think that we can take from this is Kiddush Hashem. What can we do to make our lives more holy in this situation and at this moment in history? So I would say to us that tonight, we need to commit ourselves never to forget the lives of the Jewish men, women, and children who perished during the Shoah, during the Nazi Holocaust. They were tortured and brutalized by beasts. Their lives were taken in cruelty, and their memory should never be, and the memory of what they went through should never be trivialized. Let us commit ourselves to learning more about this and sharing it with other people, be they Jewish or non-Jewish. May we recall not only the terror of the deaths, but their splendor of the lives of the 6 million. May the memory of their lives inspire us to live more holy lives ourselves, to live more meaningful lives, to live, in our case, more Jewish lives, that we may help ensure that part of who they were shall endure always. And what happened to them should never be used for political purposes or compared to anything that we're experiencing at this time. And finally, let us make sure that this trivialization, wittingly or unwittingly, is fought against. I asked Shelley Weiner, who I mentioned earlier, what she thought of that. She said, speak out against it. It is unwittingly or wittingly, it could be viewed as a form of anti-Semitism and maybe even of Holocaust denial. So therefore, I want to end by saying that our pledge tonight is quite simple. Am Yisrael Chai. The Jewish people should live and continue to live. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens let peace descend on us, on all the people of Israel, on all the world. May peace and health descend on us soon and speedily. Thank you very much.